All right, how's everybody doing today?
Good.
So I decided to do this topic because I talk with a lot of customers, and you talk through automation or talk with various members in the community, stuff like that, and I get a lot of questions. Hey, where do you start? How do you work through this? How do you tackle these tasks? And so here's where we went down this line. Today's goal is not to solve all the world's problems, but to help you understand where to begin from and how to take the simple task and make them a greater product out of the end. So, who am I? I'm Chris Hildebrandt. I've done a lot of things. My link has blog, YouTube, all the other fun stuff. I've done a lot of automation things in the community. There's a product called As-Built Report. I hate documentation just as much as you guys do. So I was super lazy. I wrote a PowerShell script on how to automate the entire Horizon environment. Like from soup to nuts. It's dead, gone. You can throw out your report, it'll put out every configuration that you put into it, and then some. So just little things like that. I spent a lot of my career in automation, in the EUC side of things. So if I didn't like the problem, I tried to figure out how to automate my way out of it. All right, so going through this, what do you guys typically see as your number one VDI issues as you kind of work through it? And soon, connection failures, performance lag. On top of that, authentication failures, low disk space, desktop image profile corruptions. Those are usually on the top of the list. So my goal was, hey, let's just pick one and kind of go with it. So the idea was, let's focus on a very single problem. So let's do the low disk space side of it. So what you need to do is just break this down into a simple, repeatable process, a simple step. So as an admin, we're going to break this down into the what steps does it take to expand a disk. So first, you need to know there's a low disk problem. So figuring persistent machine, you have a low disk problem, you need to figure out how to get alerted of said thing. Second, you're going to extend the VM or the disk space in the hypervisor. Whatever option you have, you would expand it in the hypervisor. The third one, expand the disk in the OS. So there's 3 steps here, but technically there's a lot more than 3 steps going through it. So how do we detect low disk space? So one of the things that you can do as part of the low disk space side of it, this is not an exclusive list, but these are different tools you can use to detect low disk space. Some of them are free, some of them are paid for, some of them you may have in your environment, some of them you may be looking at it. And this is by no means a complete list. This is just what came to my head. Control It does an amazing job, e.g. Enterprises, Goliath, you can use Power Automate. As most of your Microsoft shops, you can kind of use those little key functions features, Zabbix, Nagios. A lot of these things you can use just to detect that. But where do you go from there? So, that is number one of your steps. So, just figuring out how you trigger off of those devices, and then to do a task on top of that. So, expand disk and hypervisor. As we said, there was 3 original steps, but there's actually more to it than that. So you have to log into the hypervisor, you have to find the VM, you have to add capacity to the VM, and you have to disconnect from the hypervisor once you're done. And these are the simple steps in going through that process. With that being said, you can automate all of this. You can throw a PowerShell script to log into vCenter, or Nutanix, and kind of expand the VM expand the disk, be done. Log out, move on. It's not very difficult, but this is where I'm saying if you break it down into simple steps, log into vCenter, find VM, expand the disk on the VM, disconnect. That's one little script. Use it, test it, play with it. Just simplify and automate that one little piece that makes your life so much easier. And then once you've got that under control, all right, how do we expand the disk in the OS? You log into the VM, you open up disk management, you right click on the disk, and you pick expand. You log off the VM, let the user have it. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you did all the backend with WinRM commands or PS remote commands? You can do the same thing with PowerShell or whatever choice that you have for an automation tool. You could write a short, simple little PowerShell script, does WinRM, launches disk management, expands the free space on the disk, closes it out, makes your life so much easier. You start with that little step, so you run your first one manually, and then you run your second one manually. And then you implement a process similar to this. You're detecting the low disk space. If it's less than 10%, I just threw a number out there, do these things. You start plugging these things together, and you've officially automated something in a seamless function. Again, you can use a lot of those previous tools, like Control Out, Power Automate, to help you through that process. So, defining a task, saying, hey, if this happens, do this, based on those conditions. I was going to kind of do some coding, but I opted not to because I figured it'd be more functional in this fashion. But one of the things, test it a lot. Create a VM, throw a whole bunch of junk on it, make sure it expands the disk, make sure it functions as intended, start playing with it in limited production. These things make your life easier as you progress through it. One of the big challenges is not stopping from here. Because this is a great tool, it solves the problem. So we're detecting the VM being low on disk space, we're expanding the VM as far as the hypervisor, we're expanding in the OS. But this isn't where you stop, because is this truly production ready? I mean, it's production functional, but is this something that you would want to throw out there and just keep permanently? No, this is continuous improvement land. So take this just a step a little bit farther. As on here, if it's less than 20% free, run automated disk cleanup. It's built into the OS. You can do the same thing with WinRM. It's a simple little command, it's a one-liner. You can run disk cleanup. So writing those conditions into like Power Automate or stuff like that to say, hey, check to see if VM's less than 20%, run this. If it's less than 10%, do our disk expansion. So just by adding, another if statement and a simple run disk cleanup, you've just made your script even more functional. But to talk through that, is it really production ready at this point? I mean, it's better, it's much better. So how do you think you guys can make this even more production ready going into it? So
maybe including an output report as well, emails, status, what was cleaned up, that kind of stuff as well.
Hey, we're heading down that road.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. So let's integrate it into an ITSM tool. So it's funny how that topic worked out, and that was not planned. So detecting what your disks are, doing an API call to whether it's ServiceNow or whatever tool you guys are using, doing an API call, creating a ticket, reporting back, following the same process that you were doing, and reporting back into the ITSM tool saying, hey, this is what we did, and we're done. This is more production ready. Do I call that finished? Not necessarily. But because there are a couple things that are glaring at this that are problems. And I'm not saying it's wrong by any way, shape, or form, but these are the lessons that I learned rolling through production and large org and various other things, is you have to set limits for things. So right now, every time a user uploads 20 gigs worth of cat pictures on their VDI, it's just going to keep expanding, and then they can keep emptying their phone and throwing more and more cat pictures on there.
How many data stores have you zerobyted with? That's where you're going.
Yes. So, you need to upgrade and add restraints to things. So, you can take this same methodology and you can do simple little checks. Create registry keys. In Windows, you can create unlimited registry keys. Create your own Hive, put a registry key in there, it persists across it, make sure it's being saved in whatever profile management you're doing, anything like that if you're doing that side of it. But, so going through the same process of, detect the low disk space, create the ticket, is it less than 20%? If so, run your disk cleanup, add a note to ticket, create a registry key that you've done it. So that way, the next time you come through, you can set a limit on how many times you actually run this. To the same way, do that with your disk expansions. Set a limit how many times it runs it. And say, hey, we'll give users 3 free disk expansions. What do you do after that? I don't know. We can kind of work through that one. But that is the typical methodology wrapped into this. And the idea behind it. We're starting with a simple problem and slowly making it better and more efficient as we go through it. And the goal is not to try to tackle this all at once. Because if you try to tackle this entire problem all at once, it's overwhelming. But if you do it in short little steps and add these little tools, because code is so pluggable, you can take a snippet here, and just throw it into over here and make a usable product. So with the previous one, as we talked about, what happens when you get to the point where you hit the limit of your registry key? There are tools out there, for example, Power Automate, which is a very productive tool, or ITSM tools that'll do it. Some do it better than others, like ServiceNow, Power Automate, other things like that. You can extremely expand on this going forward, like asking managerial approvals. So disk running out, your VM can operate, run. We run the disk expansion, user logs, or uses it for a couple more weeks, runs in the same problem again. Now this time, we need to ask a manager for approval. We have to follow up with, whether we send a Power Automate email or a Power Automate task or a ServiceNow ticket that requires, administration approval, whatever it is, but having some accountability for that going forward and making sure that that manager is aware that they just keep filling up their disk space, and hopefully that manager asks why. Or you set it for your team to approve those said things too, so that way you can follow up, or do both. That's kind of the nice thing. You can mold it to what you need to be able to mold it to. Mold it to your own workflows, make life easier. But that is the hardest thing of this whole thing, is just breaking everything down as simple as possible and building out the steps like Legos and just putting them together slowly. Comments, questions on this? You know, I've kind of went through this kind of fast, and are there other problems that other people are seeing that they're having challenges breaking down to work through different processes? No? Man. All right, so a couple of the things that I just kind of planned on just free going after this one, because I didn't want to go completely into the scripted world of mind of things, but like working through these, you know, the disk expansion world is just a kind of simple example, but you go through like hung sessions. It's simplistic, you know. What's your process for doing hung sessions? First, you got to detect the session's hung. Second, whatever your remediation steps are, whether it's just reboot the VM or that side of it. Those are simple little tasks that you can work through in simple, short blocks of code that you can automate and save yourself a lot of time and effort in working with the end user and hopefully fixing the issue before the user actually even knows there's an issue. And for us, for previous life, large org disk expansion, that was a big pain in our butt. It truly was. It plagued a lot of little problems, and this was a simplistic fix, which gives you an opportunity to grow and fix things and step away from fixing these little things and then start focusing on more things. You know, other things, trying to think of a few other things. Yeah.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you use this then to span your virtual desktop environment? Do you have a driver tool or something? You go scan all of your VMs all the time, or I mean,
No.
you have something like this, but it's generated by the user.
Okay.
It's already created. So are you proactively going through your entire?
So going back, this is a great one. So there are a lot of tools out there that have agents or do WinRM commands that check to see your environment running. For example, like control up, one of the things it reports back is disk space. So you can use that as your disk space agent. Technically, Intune does that, which isn't on there. EG Innovations all have an agent. If you're Microsoft shop, Azure Power Automate has WinRM functions. So you can use Power Automate to go check your VMs periodically throughout the day and report back going, hey, this has 18% disk space. So set for the flags that we did, we want to create a ticket, run disk cleanup, fix said problem. Yay, user never actually knew what happened. Their VM may be a little bit slow while disk cleanup runs, but they never knew they were having a problem. They may get an email that a ticket was opened and a ticket was closed, and they never did anything. Which A, makes you look good, and makes your team look good, and especially if for some reason your managerial staff goes by how many tickets you solve, you look really good. More questions? Yeah.
Hey Chris, so since you're riffing, let's use a scenario like our customer that was having a problem with app volumes not loading. Off the top, how would you kind of put a trigger and then an automation process behind that to log the user off or something?
For app volumes, it's technically built into it. You can set it to automatically log off, but in that same principle, if you didn't set the trigger for that, you could do the same methodology. If the service isn't running and responding appropriately, again, that's another thing you can check and trigger off of. It's just figuring out how to trigger those said things, which with app volume specifically, it's loading event logs with all of said tools on list. You can pull event logs and query the event logs, so you have something to trigger off of.
Chris, what are your thoughts, rather than putting something in like a reg value for disk ops, to tie it to either a user or a machine being an ITSM? That way, if you have to, the machine impose, or you have to clear the disk, that you always retain the data outside of the endpoint.
So yes, that is why I was explaining, hey, if you're gonna do a registry, put it in a user-based variable, so that way it's captured by the profile management tool. For that very reason, if user jumps from machine to machine, you don't want them filling up multiple machines. Therefore, you want to kind of keep track of the back end of that. And that's a very good point.
I didn't see it up there, maybe if I missed it, but you have for the benefit of the audience, do you have a Git repo or a blog site?
I do.
Code?
I do. It was on the first one.
So how do you coordinate moving this code, right? Different customers consulting, you go to customer A, customer B, customer C. You develop that code.
I have.
Do you take it with you and plug it into each?
Some things, yes.
From your repos?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
So it just depends. There is a GitHub repo. I'm 99% sure, at least for Horizon and Control Up and vCenter, this code is out there. I will get one out there for Nutanix. But realistically, it's just Windows and hypervisor code. You can do the same thing with Azure. You run into the same problem with Azure. But there are, simplistic problems that you can solve in that methodology. So, yes, to your point, blog, everything's up there. Trying to think. Yes.
So what if the user knows that they need some additional space that they're going to run out? Do you have self-service provisioning?
I
Take care of
didn't.
ahead of time?
I didn't, but that is something you could 100% do, especially with modern ITSM tools like ServiceNow, because ServiceNow has onboard connectors. So you can go, hey, run this same task that you built to do that based off of the ticket that was created. So yes, you can do that, but it is going to be a user-oriented task, and maybe I don't see the logic in doing it on like a user GUI on side of the user machine when they would be creating a ticket for a problem one way or another for service ticket, where just keeping them in the same spot and using the same tool as much as possible. But our goal is to help proactively fix the problems before they know they're problems, or if there is a problem, to hopefully fix it before they actually have a chance of calling in. Detecting things real time as they happen and fixing them before, so that way you're not getting a call on Saturday, or you're out fishing on Sunday and you're having fun with family, whatever. You're not getting the call because we all know we all hate them. Jordan?
5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes? Okay. Yes?
So obviously the term vibe coding is really popular right now. So on this whole topic of just getting started on your journey, can you walk us through how one would get started in things like VS Code or PowerShell or vibe coding?
Yeah, so getting started into coding in my career was the hardest thing that I'd ever did, but yet the simplest thing that I'd ever did. So point blank. Because when I first started, like most people, I was dedicated to a GUI. I lived and operated off of GUI. I hated command line stuff. But just taking those simple things, for example, adding a disk space to a VM, just running this, just writing, spending 20, 30 minutes, an hour, it doesn't matter, to research how to connect to a hypervisor, how to find a VM, how to expand a disk, and how to log off via whatever tool, whether it's, PowerShell, Python, whatever. But using those tools just to do that simple thing. Now that saves you from the rest of your work life from having to do that. Because guess what? You have a code that you can run to do that. You're always going to improve that code because you're going to, oh, what if I need to do this one little thing extra? So I'm going to add a little snippet to do this one other thing of maybe I'm just going to add a note to the VM saying I expanded to this disk on this day and just add a note to it. Those simple little things. But that's how I started my career in coding, was legitimately just picking one common problem and starting from there. And that little thing sparked a light that said, oh, well, I hate doing things multiple times. And originally it was a rule of 3, but now it's like, oh, I'm going to do it one time and that's it. So, yeah.
I'm just going to add to that last question there too. So, for starting the journey of like scripting or automating, I always challenge my team when, say, someone that isn't knowledgeable, let's say PowerShell, that's what we use a lot of, is to pick a step that you want to automate and then utilize that particular idea while you're trying to learn, let's say, PowerShell. So we use things like Perl site or chat, or CPT nuggets for like online self-paced training. And so while you take that particular thing, or maybe you're watching YouTube videos, always have in the background as to what you're trying to accomplish, and then as you're learning it, you can now start developing that script with the tools that you're just learning, right? And then once you complete it, then that's where that aha moment is like, okay, everything moving forward is now this.
100%. Like, for example, there's a book out there, PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. It's a great book. There's a YouTube series on it. It's a great series. But to his point, unless you're doing something valuable to your job, it won't stick.
Yeah.
And until you use that, it's great for learning the functions of it. But until you start doing with that specific to your job, it won't spark a light to start doing other things. So, thank you.
Sure.
Great point. All right.
I have another one.
Yes.
This is more of a consulting question than a
Yeah.
coding question. So again, portability, right? You've developed that script. You keep it in your repo. That's kind of your IP.
Yep.
But from a consulting perspective, when you come bring it to a customer, you're bringing your IP into that customer, you're solving the problem. Do you leave your IP there? Do you remove it when you're done? Have you thought about, PowerShell's PowerShell, anybody can do it, but you have developed that process.
To me, I actually have never considered that because everything's public.
It's all
mine's public knowledge.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to hide anything. Yes, I do have a private repo. The only reason why I have a private repo is because I'm working on it and testing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be public. Years ago, I wrote some PowerShell script to automate patching of your entire Horizon environment and every single master image. That was public. I did a lot of that stuff off the back end. It's grown and changed a lot since then, but it's all there. It's just, again, I find something that I hate, I figure out how to automate it. So, all right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate everything.